Hello, my beautiful friends, our Dr. Humans, and welcome back to the poddy. I'm here solo today without my hero, my partner in crime, Christine Barker. And don't worry, she will be back, but we're going solo for good reason because I am about to pour onto you an absolutely jam-packed mini-series of mindsets that will align and accelerate you to be the kind of person that you want to be in all different kinds of the challenging scenarios that we talked about on the podcast in the last year. Showing up in a way that is that best, highest, most impressive version of you. And you know, after listening to the podcast for the last year, that when I say the most impressive version of you, I do not mean to other people. I mean the version of you that impresses yourself. Because doctor life is hard, and we don't want to reserve the best version of ourselves for when the situation is going well as well. It's easy to show up well. It's easy to show up as your best self when the situation is going perfectly, isn't it? These mindsets that I'm going to give you, that I'm going to offer you to use in your own life in order to be that version of yourself, are mindsets that my doctor clients have found life-changing, game-changing over the years, and we're delivering them straight to your ears in conveniently jam-packed episodes. Take and leave what works and what doesn't work. And remember, in the true coaching spirit, don't just intellectually learn this stuff and be like, yeah, I like that. Implement it, integrate it. I don't know that you believe something as a mindset coach until I see it showing up in your behaviors and your results. Are you unshakable? Are you obviously, utterly unshakable? Oh, and it would mean so much to me if you let me know if any of these mindsets moved you, or even better, if you've used them to create different decisions, behaviors, and results in your life. Without further ado, welcome to this series. All right, my beautiful friends, pillar 1 of the unshakable mindset is all about your relationship with yourself. In particular, this is about having a relationship with yourself where you value, respect, honor yourself. And sort of synonyms to this would be having self-worth, having self-regard, having good self-esteem. There's all kinds of different ways to say a sort of similar thing. Now, to some of you guys, this might seem like a super basic, obvious thing. Of course you should value yourself. And that's sort of how I'd like to think most people think, of course. And actually, what I've found through coaching, which is mainly female doctors, but also male doctors, is that most people have to be convinced that they even have value to offer, or in particular, a noteworthy or regard-worthy amount of value to offer. And B, most people have to be convinced that it's useful to see their value, right? And I can certainly relate to this. I used to believe that all forwards movement, all productive activity, all striving, all growth had to come from a lack, a sense of not being good enough, that was the only possible motivation to do anything different, that you were unhappy with where you were at that point. I genuinely used to believe that. I remember thinking about that question when I was in high school. Goodness gracious, I was a philosophical human. But this is echoed in so many sentiments that I hear from my doctors. I see them holding so tight to their doubts and their criticisms because they believe that that's what motivates them and that they'll be complacent if they see the value in themselves or see the positive side of things. I understand that fear. And I also know that that's not actually how the world works. Most of us have just never even tested a different hypothesis. And now I get the win-win in my life. And I want you to have that too. I get to strive from a place of valuing myself. I strive because I value myself. I strive because I have a good relationship with myself, because I respect myself, because I see myself as worthy, and because I want to honor myself. So different. And my results are better because of that, because of striving from that place. And here's the real kicker, it's easier. It's less exhausting, it's less depleting when you come from that place. Now, there's nothing wrong with you if you are totally disinterested in the idea of valuing yourself, or if at the moment you don't see that you have any intrinsic value yourself. For most of us, we have received this societal conditioning. Certainly women and certainly doctors, most of us in these categories have learned over time that our value comes from service, the way that we serve the world, that's what makes us valuable as a woman and as a doctor. It's very common for doctors for their profession to consume their whole identity and therefore be their source of value, and therefore to conflate our sense of value with our service. The other metric that we tend to use for our value is productivity. How much are we doing? How much are we creating? How much are we achieving? Now, the problem with not valuing ourselves is that we continue to make decisions from this premise that our value comes from serving and from our productivity. And so we continue to make decisions in our life that don't create an experience of a life we value. We continue to make decisions that create service and productivity, but that don't necessarily meet our needs and our wants, and don't necessarily use our greatest strengths and have us showing up authentically and most powerfully and most impactfully in the world and in the experience that we want. Instead, from not seeing the value in ourselves, we make decisions from a sense of internalized obligation of what we should do, what other people think we should do, and from a sense of external validation, from using that as our compass. Well, if other people believe that that's a good thing, if other people agree that that's a good idea, a good decision, a good thing to do, a good thing to achieve, then we'll do that and call that the right decision. We keep doing what others see as valuable. And this isn't an inherently bad thing. This can sometimes overlap in a Venn diagram with what we think is valuable. However, the most common regret of the dying is, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself rather than the one that others expected of me. With that in mind, we are concerned that we might end up in the same place where we end up regretting the decisions we've made over our life, because those decisions didn't come from us valuing ourselves, our true selves, what we want, what fulfills us, the experience we want to have, and how we want to live our lives, what we want to create in our lives. And if having that regret at the end of your life is not good enough for you, then this is a pillar of the unshakable mindset that I need you to work on. There are no right or wrong answers in life, or what's good or bad to do with your life, or aim for in your life, or to create with your life, or to experience in your life. But there are decisions that you can make that you will regret or not regret, and enjoy and feel fulfilled by and feel proud of and like yourself for. When you don't value yourself and your opinion and you as a person, you would tend to outsource your decisions and your ideas about what matters to other people. And then you can end up in that category of regretting your life, especially given how hard you guys work and how diligent you are. In particular, as doctors, it would be such a shame for all of that effort to not amount to a life that you love. So given that there are no right or wrong ways to live your life, and that's a belief in itself that I'm offering you, with that belief and being released from the obligation or this idea that what's externally validated is more good than another choice, and that other people hold the answers about what's good, then from there you might start to turn and ask yourself, what do I want? What's important to me? What do I value? What experiences do I want to have in my life? How do I want to live my life? What do I want to create with my life? And you won't turn and ask yourself those important questions that determine whether you'll have these regrets at the end of your life or not. You won't ask yourself these questions if you don't see value in yourself, if you don't have a good relationship with yourself. So that's really what this pillar is about. So let me next offer you some different beliefs within this pillar. The first belief or model of the world that I'd like to offer you is, I am valuable in myself. This is first. Not because it's the belief that I expect you to take on and embody and act out first, because this is going to be one of the hardest for most of us to believe. because most people, again, with this service mindset and this idea that our value comes from our service, like doctors and in particular women, we often will try and justify our value based on how what's valuable about us serves other people, how it contributes to other people, as opposed to us in ourselves as a person having value, our experience of life being valuable. This is first on my list, however, because it is absolutely core to my work. We start making massive changes in your life when you start honoring yourself for yourself as the primary premise. You start respecting and honoring yourself as a person. Because here's the painful irony that I need to point out to people who think they're being gorgeous, kind, loving humans by self-sacrificing and saying that they exist and they can justify their existence and their worth by how much they serve other people. Because they say, people matter. I value people. I value human life. So that's why I'm a good person for serving. You are not demonstrating the value of valuing human life when you value yours less or even sacrifice yours for another person's. You can't say that you believe that people matter, that human lives matter, that all lives matter, and that people deserve to be honored and respected and cared for, to be seen, to be understood, that they are valuable if you don't do the same for yourself. If you hurt or disregard yourself to help somebody else, you're still hurting people. You're still disregarding people. You're disregarding human life and the human experience. If you want to say that people matter, then you better include yourself in that. So many of us have the model of the world that not being selfish is actually being totally selfless. That's what it means to not be selfish. And anything less than being totally selfless at any point is selfish. It's not selfish to take yourself into account. Treat yourself like a human that you value. If you believe that people matter, that the human experience matters, treat yourself as a human with that equal value. When you start to value yourself, you actually get to show up as the full expression of yourself. You start to make decisions from what you think and what you want, from your preferences and your uniqueness. You can honor the unique parts of you and the unique combination that is you that no one else can express or offer to the world. Because wouldn't it be a shame to have this uniqueness and then to not express it and fully live it out in the world? What is the value of a human life to you? What makes your life valuable and full? What we can see from the most common regret of the dying is it is important to us as humans that we are true to ourselves and we express who we are. It is how we truly honor and respect this life that we've been given, this experience that we get. If I thought of someone I loved most dearly and I thought about the experience that I would want them to have for their life, what I would think about is them having the freedom to completely explore and express, to be themselves and get the gifts of being themselves, to see what they're made of in this life and see what they create through being their authentic selves, through using and having and being what they have to offer in their uniqueness. I think freedom is the ability to be ourselves. And when we don't value ourselves, when we don't think we have intrinsic value in our usness, we don't ask ourselves what we think and what we want and who we are. We live out other people's expectation. We live out internalized obligation, thinking that's the right thing, instead of understanding that we know what's right for us. That is valuing ourselves, valuing our lives, and the experiences that we get to have in this one life for ourselves. Now, just quickly, I want to clean up 2 objections that come up to valuing ourselves for ourselves, not because we contribute or serve other people, not because we offer value to other people. The first one is we think that if we believe we have value just in ourselves and that our experience of life is important in itself and that our desires and preferences and our uniqueness is important in itself, we think that we'll become selfish and self-centered. But the opposite is true. When you learn to respect and honor your unique experience of life, your uniqueness as a person, you do the same for other people. You stop expecting other people to conform with what your expectations are of them or what you think their obligations are or what society says our obligations are. You allow them to have their own autonomy. You allow them to make their own decisions and to trust that the decisions that they make are theirs and no one else's business. You respect the human experience more when you respect your own experience. Yes, you start caring more about what you do and what choices you make and less about what other people do and what choices they make. When I say care, I mean judge. You stop judging them as much or thinking that they should do it differently. And you stop being kind at the expense of yourself. You stop sacrificing yourself, which is, of course, as I've mentioned, not really kind at all. Notice how, as we talk about this belief system of valuing ourselves, this doesn't become relative to other people. Valuing ourselves as a human is a part of valuing all humans. Valuing yourself does not mean, this is one of the common objections and biggest fears, that we'll become selfish and therefore respect and honor others less, and also will become arrogant. We'll think that we're more important than other people. But instead, within this belief system, we're saying that everybody is valuable and it just needs to include you. Every human life, every life is important, including yours. The second worry is that we'll be complacent or lazy if we see our value and all of our goodness, that we'll stop striving. But this assumes again that we're striving only from a place of lack or something being wrong and needing to fix ourselves, as opposed to when you see your value, when you value yourself, when you find yourself valuable, then you will treat yourself better. When you see value, you nurture it. You want to maximize it. You want to bring it out into the world for other people to appreciate too. And this is where it starts to cross back over with how valuing yourself ends up serving and helping other people anyway. So believing that you are valuable in yourself is one of the key beliefs. And what this belief will lead you to do, amongst other things, is start to listen to yourself. See yourself. Your desires, your wants, what's important to you, and that's going to help you make great decisions that create a life that is fulfilling and that you're proud of, and help you stop automatically investing your time and energy based on our societal conditioning, trying to do what's praiseworthy, what gets that external validation, or what comes from this sense of internalized obligation about what we should do and what's good and bad and so on. Helping people is a very good thing. You'd be hard pressed to ever say it's not, and it's definitely not what I think. But it is not our total value as a human. You don't live for other people. You don't look at a baby or a pet and think you have no value because you're not contributing anything. You're not serving the community at all. No, you know that that baby and your gorgeous pet is so worthy of love and so highly valuable. If your model of the world was just that their value comes from how much they serve and contribute to the world, then you would miss their magic. Don't allow yourself to miss your magic in the same way. All right, with all of that being said about how you have value in yourself, your human life has value in itself. Your experience is valuable. My next point is you have value to give to the world. I have value to give to the world. So yes, I do think this belief system of service and contribution and how we can make a difference to other people is a highly useful belief, but I just don't want it to be your whole concept of why you're valuable. So that's why this comes in second. But truly, my sense of service is one of the most enjoyable states of being that I can be in. I love the state of feeling that I am in service to somebody, of knowing that I'm helping somebody. And in particular, what really makes this magical for me is when I feel like I'm using my uniqueness or a strength of mine to help somebody in a way that they might not have been touched if anybody else was doing it. Tying in that first point of seeing the value in myself and totally expressing and being authentic about who I am and letting myself grow into that and be that in the world, seeing that combined with servicing somebody is one of the best feelings I have experienced in my life. And this is in contrast to, say, for example, doing a job that I know that, isn't particularly using my strengths or anybody else could do. You know, for example, for me, it would be the academic side in medicine. That doesn't make me feel like I'm particularly using my strengths necessarily. But when I get to have those human interactions in medicine, that's when I feel like I'm really meeting my strengths and my ability to serve together and feeling like, wow, I'm so glad that I could show up in this way. So as a part of being unshakable, I want you to be able to recognize and embody, show up in a way where I can see that you believe that you do have value to offer the world, that what you do affects other people in a good way. Now, many of us will find this challenging too. And in particular, we can get a not enoughness about us that holds us back here. I've heard too many doctors downplay and disregard the value that they have to give to the world because they say, oh, well, I'm not an expert in that area, or well, somebody else is better at this. I should be better in this area by now. And these belief systems, as opposed to recognizing that we do have value to give the world, holds us back from giving value. It stops us from not only giving, but also growing, annoyingly. Because if we gave more, if we showed up more, if we contributed more, we would also learn and grow in that process. So it really stunts our ability to not only give the value that we have, but also expand the amount of value that we have to give. Now, here's the tough thing I have to say. This humble mindset, this self-deprecating mindset, this never enough or could always do better mindset, this model of the world and this framework to make decisions from is frankly the most selfish thing you can do. And I'm saying this, don't worry, from very much making this same mistake myself. I thought, as I've referenced with my own struggle from not being able to value myself or have a good relationship with myself, I did a lot of self-criticism, a lot of self-loathing, a lot of self-doubting, a lot of not enoughness. And I used to think it was virtuous, and I used to think it was useful. I used to think it would drive me to be better. But really it kept me out of the ring. Again, it kept me from giving and from growing. And now I can see how selfish that humble mindset is. Because here's what really happens when you don't believe that you have value to give to the world. You contribute less. If you don't believe you have value to give, you're not going to give the value you have. And while we're trying to be self-deprecating and humble, we actually think about ourselves more. Nobody thinks about themselves more than somebody who is self-loathing, somebody who's self-critical, somebody who's self-doubting. We're thinking about ourselves all the time when we're in that mindset. But our brains will continue to do this for us and dress it up as a nice thing like humility because it helps to keep us safe. I talk about this concept in coaching of the humility shield. We lead with this self-deprecating humility. We tell other people about how little we think about ourselves to sort of beat them to the punch, so that nothing they can say can seemingly tear us down or insult us or hurt us, because we already think that. You can't hurt us. We already know that terrible thing about ourselves. We already know that we're not good enough, so don't bother telling me. All we're actually doing here is guaranteeing that we insult and hurt ourselves, but we just get to avoid that shock or surprise of that social interaction. More on that end there, darling. But the other safety that we get from not seeing the value that we have to offer the world is that we don't call ourselves to step up. We don't call ourselves to get in the ring. It's our permission to not take up space, take a risk, see where we have deficits, and get it wrong. Notice how, again, this is us protecting ourselves and actually being more selfish and self-protected, dressed up as this humility, this lovely humility. So when it comes to humility, I don't want you guys to be aiming to think less of yourself, but to think of yourself less and think of other people more. And to do that, you actually need to think more highly of yourself. When you're more self-critical, when you're more self-loathing, you will just think about yourself more and more. When you believe you have value to give to the world, you will actually give it. Your humility isn't helpful. The third belief or model of the world, way to think, that I want to offer you is, I treat myself well. I have a good relationship with myself. And this belief is critical for you to have if you want to be unshakable, because this belief is what creates confidence. So many of us think that we can do hard things, and be our best self, create the best results and our best life through willpower and through overriding ourselves, through pushing, ignoring, dismissing ourselves. One problem with this is, of course, when we're in this mindset, it's very difficult to actually hear ourselves, to hear what we want, to hear our preferences, our desires, and ultimately to make sure that all this hard work that we're doing is actually taking us in a direction to a destination that we actually want. If we're just constantly using force and pushing a direction, we could end up going a way that we don't really want to go, because that force is just artificially applied rather than an intrinsic drive towards what we actually want. But the other problem is that I want to highlight with this belief is when we use willpower and overriding ourselves and force, we are breaking self-trust over and over. We're creating a bad relationship with ourselves. We are going to continuously show ourselves and remind ourselves and reinforce that we do not have our own back. We do not get to have the confidence that comes from knowing we're safe with ourselves. We'll take care of ourselves. We'll always treat ourselves with respect, no matter what happens. And that's what we need to do hard things and feel confident at the same time. If you want to take a risk, which inherently means there's a possibility that you will fall, that you'll get hurt, that things will go wrong, your confidence can't come from this idea, this certainty that everything's actually going to go right. Your confidence needs to incorporate that you will be okay when things don't go right, when you don't get the desired outcome. That is how you get confidence, from having a good relationship with yourself, which primarily is about being able to trust yourself, to do all the right things by yourself, to treat yourself well, even when things don't go well, not just when things go well. Now, there's an option, if you like, to create confidence and use your thoughts to create confidence from a place of, I'm definitely going to be successful. Everything is going to work. This is going to be great. This is going to be perfect. If you're happy to, you can use that delusion, that future telling, that crystal ball kind of idea of saying that I can predict the future and I know that everything's going to work exactly in A, B, C way. If that works for you, that's cool. I actually have no judgment. I love a bit of useful delusion in my life. And to be honest, we all use it. Every time that you're predicting something negative happening in the future, you're also just being delusional, right? But we'll talk about this in other places in Dare Darling. But for me, when it comes to big goals, especially long-term goals where I have to hold belief for a long period of time, my brain usually doesn't buy into that. My brain usually won't accept it's all going to go perfectly. Everything's going to go right. And especially when you've got those big goals that require a lot of action over a lot of time. If something goes wrong early on that course, it would be easy for me to fall off that course if my confidence was hinged on everything going right. You can see the problem with that, right? So what is more useful for me in terms of a belief system to create confidence from is having a good relationship with myself, knowing that I treat myself well. So my confidence comes from whatever happens, I will keep treating myself well. I will maintain a good relationship with myself. I have a good relationship with myself. Whatever happens, I'll have my own back. I'll honor myself. I'll be honest with myself. I'll listen to myself. I'll support myself. I'll get back up if and when I want to. I'll forgive myself and not hold things against myself, even when I do it wrong, even when I get it wrong, even when I knew better, and all these kinds of unuseful thoughts and painful thoughts that our mind will offer when things don't go right. You can only really have confidence when you have this good relationship with yourself. When you know that, you can trust yourself that even when the undesired happens. And a confidence that relies on success is going to be fragile, fallible, and, as I said, frankly, delusional. So do you have this belief? Do you know that you have a good relationship with yourself? Have you developed a good relationship with yourself? Do you treat yourself in a way that you would use to describe a good relationship? Imagine if you treated another person the way you treat yourself. Would you have a good relationship with them? Would you expect the two of you to have trust? Would they feel safe and confident to take risks with you? Would you want to be in a relationship with you? It's a good question to ask because you do have a choice. The reason that I would choose to have a relationship with somebody, let them influence my life, is because overall I see that it adds goodness. Does your relationship, the way that you relate to yourself, add goodness to your life, or does it take it away? I was thinking on this about what it means to have a good relationship, and there are all these other kind of interesting bills of rights for relationships and things that you can look up to decide your own value set. But I thought of many things off the top of my head that make a good relationship to me. One of them is appreciating the other, seeing the good in them. And actually, relationship experts don't say that good relationships are ones that are without conflict or with total congruence. But instead, apparently the research shows that it's more about having a higher ratio of positive interactions than negative. And that largely comes down to attitude and appreciation. How many positive versus negative interactions have you had with yourself in the last 24 hours? What is the self-talk soundtrack in your mind? How do you react to yourself? How do you talk to yourself when things go well and when they don't go well? In a good relationship, you respect and honor the other, including their wants, their desires, their preferences, even when they're different to yours. And you honor and acknowledge their suffering, their pain, their challenges, their experience. You do things that create connection, not disconnection. So often we break our own trust with ourselves and disrespect ourselves by disconnecting when we're hurting or we're struggling, or when our mind or body or nervous system is asking for something from us. We will disconnect and we will instead distract ourselves with social media or overeating, drinking, procrastinating, or other kinds of avoidance, instead of connecting with that bid that our body, our mind is giving us. Reliability. When you're in a relationship with somebody, you want to know that their word means something, that you can count on them, that when they say they'll do something, they'll do it, because you're relying on them and you're making decisions based on that. We will seldom miss an appointment with another person, but we will often very easily miss an appointment with ourselves. You know, for example, when we decided to sit down and work on XYZ today, when we decided to take care of ourselves or rest in this time. Are you reliable with yourself? Do you do what you say you're going to do? Is your word to yourself trustworthy? Or do you just break promises and plans with yourself? Truth and trust are enormous parts of good relationships. In good relationships, we tell each other the truth even when it's hard. And so often with ourselves, we don't even let ourselves see the truth about ourselves. We'll try and hide in our minds from the things that we know are true, but they are painful or uncomfortable or simply vulnerable to admit to ourselves. Even telling ourselves the truth about our desires, about what we want. You wouldn't think that we would hide from that, but when it comes to what we want, it can be a vulnerable thing for us. And it can be a painful thing too, because it often comes with a recognition that we don't have that right now, and it brings up criticisms and doubts about why we don't have it and if we'll ever be able to have it. The people I'm in relationships with, they honor me by telling me the truth. That is a part of how they honor me, not by being nice or people pleasing me. That's disrespectful, I think. That's a break in the trust of the relationship. And it's the same with myself. I honor myself by letting myself see and know the truth, even when it's not comfortable. To be unshakable, you need to believe you have a good relationship with yourself. You need to believe you treat yourself well. The next belief in this pillar is, I like myself. And with that, I don't need others to like me, to tell me that I can like me. I don't need others to like me to believe that I'm likable. Now, this belief comes from the other beliefs in this pillar that I've talked about. Being able to like yourself is often a result of the decisions you make about how you show up and how you treat yourself and what you do with your life, and making sure that you like those reasons. Because we all have our own moral compass and ethics for life, and have these ideas about how we'd like to live a life and what is a good life. And to like ourselves, it's important that we're following that value set for ourselves. Importantly, liking yourself doesn't come from you always making perfect decisions or making the right decisions or always doing everything right. There are two requirements here to be able to like yourself, and one is to not judge and criticize yourself when you don't get it right, because that's going to happen. To not turn on yourself when you don't get it right. But also, secondly, you do need to do that work to make sure in general you are making decisions that you like. You do like your reasons for what you do. I consider it one of your most important jobs in life, to like yourself, to make sure you're doing what you need to do in order to keep liking yourself. Between, again, the way that you treat yourself and the actual decisions that you make. If you don't do this job, and if you don't take ownership and responsibility for this job, it's going to make your life very hard. You'll live a very hard life if you don't like yourself. You're never gonna live a perfect life where you do everything right. But you can live a life where you like yourself for how you made the decisions, the reasons that you made them from, the values that you made them from, even when it doesn't all go to plan. I want you to consider that if you don't like yourself, but all these other people like you, there's still gonna be a very big hole. No amount of like or approval from other people can fill that hole of you not liking yourself, of you not showing up in a way that makes you like yourself. On the other hand, if you show up in a way that makes you like yourself, if you like yourself, then it doesn't affect you if other people don't like you. This is key, because we often do it the other way around. We try to get other people to like us. We try and earn their approval and their acceptance to give ourselves permission to like ourselves, so that we can say, well, we must be a good person, we must be a likable person if all these other people agree. But you're only doing that because you don't know what it takes to like yourself. That's your job, to work it out and to make sure you like yourself. And then you won't need other people to think a certain way or act a certain way around you. And you won't need to continue to be so concerned with managing their impression of you and making them think a certain way about you. So in particular, this belief of I like myself and I don't need other people to like me is demonstrated in these beliefs and behaviors. It's more important to me that I like myself than they like me. i.e., it's more important that you know you do the right thing and you like your reasons, rather than you do the thing that helps you manage their impression of you or what they think is right. You do the thing that looks right to them or that they would approve of as right. Instead, you do the thing that makes you put your head on the pillow at night and be like, yes, good decision. Hard decision maybe, but I like my reasons. Next, you don't allow yourself to be a fake, edited, muted version of yourself in order to earn the liking from other people, that acceptance, that approval. Instead, you understand that that is just disrespecting, dismissing, and hiding yourself. They're not actually liking you for who you are. Instead, you understand that this is you changing yourself and not liking yourself in order to earn their approval, their acceptance instead. So you don't want fake friendships. You don't want to hold yourself in a certain manner when you're going on a date or meeting someone new in general or showing up in some professional sense. You want to show up as yourself because you want to work out who are your people. You only want to know who likes you actually for you, for the version of you that you like. You don't choose people who don't choose you. You know that not everybody is for you, and that's okay. That's how it is. You also know that for people to like you, they don't need to like every single aspect of you. Even in your best relationships, you will disappoint people, you will upset them, they will disagree with you on certain things, they might be unhappy with or overtly disapprove of your choices. You will hurt them. And with all of that, with all those instances of conflict or incongruence, not agreeing, you stay true to yourself. And you understand that this is a part of having a relationship with someone who is truly relating to you as you are and not asking you or needing you to change yourself, and not believing that you need to change yourself or you want to change yourself in order to be liked. These are some of the behaviors that come up when you like yourself, and you won't compromise that in order to have other people like you instead. When it's more important that you like yourself and you like your reasons. When you know it's your job to like you. Thank you so much, my beautiful friends. If you found this video useful, let me know below. Let me know which beliefs you want to take on and tackle and embody in your life first. And I cannot wait to hear from you. Talk to you guys soon.